Crank It Up. I'm Jim Price, and this is my review of the Teens faction. This video will consist of two parts, the Teens review itself and the possible implications of the 100th faction. For this video, I do not know when Teens will release. I assume it will be a standard promo, not part of the next expansion, nor do I know if it is in fact the 100th faction. I will just assume it is. But I also want to start this video with 3 random facts. The next expansion, Half the Battle, contains a legitimate top 15 faction contender. It contains a faction that I would describe as having a game plan taken straight out of Crank It Up. And it contains a no doubt slam dunk theme for a faction. Remember these facts for the end of the video. But back to Teens. I don't think I have seen any of the movies the Teen cards are based on, so I'm not qualified to talk about their theme. But mechanically, the Teens care about meeting specific minions on the same base. Unlike Frozen, which feels like a flowchart, Teens are a chain. Each teen has 2 parts, an on-play reaction that requires a specific teen to be there, and a global reaction to playing a minion of printed power 3. Not 3 or less, specifically 3. Not a weed eater either. Each teen appears twice for a total of 5 sets of minions of power 3. If you look at the Teens cards, it won't be long before a natural question arises. Where do you start in the chain? Each teen has an on-play ability that is expecting the previous teen to be there in order to provide maximum value. So no matter where you start, an ability is not going to fire. As a result, I have nicknamed this faction Blossom Paradox the Faction. If you aren't familiar with that term, a Blossom Paradox is when making a card better makes the card worse by limiting your ability to play it if you hold out for its maximum value. And this faction definitely succumbs to that paradox, as I always feel like I am getting cheated out of something when I play them. To play Teens is to largely accept this reality. Because of a refusal to allow cards to react to themselves, this means that the first teen of a chain will not do anything yet. Because you have to play the hand you are dealt, this exercise doesn't fully work in practice, but it's helpful to detach the top and bottom abilities in terms of deciding what to forgo. You have the following abilities that can be gained: moving up to 2 minions, playing an action, searching for a minion of power 3, gaining 2 power counters, and playing an extra minion locally. Of those abilities, I value drawing the minion and the extra action most, while gaining the power counters is the least important. However, Jock also has the ongoing I value the least. Of the bottom abilities, you are choosing between a recurring card, drawing a card, gaining 2 temporary power, gaining a local power counter, and moving a minion. Of course, there are workarounds. The Teens have a double feature that is essentially Grimm's Blessing. The wording throws me off, so I try not to overthink it. You can play Abe Froman on a teen to make future chains easier, but you still forfeit the first ability because it's a minion modifier and can't precede the minion. The best play is to actually play a partner minion and put Abe Froman on that, so that you don't forfeit anything, but this creates a twofold draw order dependency. They have New Kid, which also grabs a specific minion, usually one in the chain that you want. Similar to Itty Critters, sometimes drawing your minion is really bad because you lose the ability to play them from your deck where you have more control. This puts a lot of weight on Slacker because I'm constantly putting back these actions to sling early and often. The Teens are capable of some crazy chains, but you need a decent number of minions there first. New Kid, while being cast friendly in theory, isn't cast friendly in practice because it's their best burst. You might play New Kid to get a brain, to play an action, to play another New Kid, to play another brain, and keep playing cards. To keep your hand stocked and get you going, the Teens have Booty Trap, which reacts to minions of printed power 3, either played or moved to there by you. While this is nice to combo with rival movement, the Teens cannot do this internally, and what's more frustrating is that it cannot react to your recruits. Consider this. For a faction that has card draw order issues, drawing cards aggressively is essential. But this card doesn't work with the card that is mathematically the most common one in your deck, the partner recruit. And as one of the few cast-friendly actions they have, one of the few actions you could actually play before your minion play, this action puts me in the rare position of saying that it is too internally focused. It's particularly frustrating because this is a single feature, and we have cards that do comparable things, including Go Sees My Sister, which does 95% of what Booty Trap does and does it better, so the insistence on printed power of 3 must clearly be thematic in a way I just don't understand. Teens does include one of the most unique cards in Smash Up's history, a standard action single feature called Brunch Bunch. There is definitely an easier way to word this, so rather than read it verbatim, I will explain it in my own terms. You choose a base, and you count the number of distinct names there among your minions, and you are only counting those that are printed power 3 or less. So if you have Slacker, Rebel, War Raptor, and Armor Stego, that's 3, because War Raptor doesn't count, but Armor Stego does. You get to resolve 3 of the abilities available in the list, using no ability more than once. This is uncharted territory for Smash Up because the ability scales and evolves in a non-linear way, one with diversifying types of abilities. These are the types of cards I've long campaigned for, but there are 3 major problems with this implementation. First, the abilities you get are almost verbatim the team's abilities you already have. Moving a minion is Rebel's second half, or Slacker's top half. Drawing a card is Brain's second half. Playing a minion there is Rebel's top half. 2 power is Prep's bottom half. And bottom decking a card is Slacker's bottom half. This is caught in a weird place between duplication and being jarring for leaving out Jock. The second problem is that, instead of letting the merits of this card stand on its own, the game provides an immediate short circuit with Abe Froman. Playing Abe Froman on any minion of printed power 3 instantly gives you all 5 abilities. And without that short circuit, the third issue becomes apparent that these are the wrong 5 abilities for its use case. If you have 5 minions there already, that makes this a terminal card, and you are already investing a lot, but you are only adding 5 power. Drawing a card and the recursion are small benefits, but the movement really makes no sense. Unless you just need the 2 power, if you can play a 3 and move a 3 off, what 3 are you moving? It's already established that you are dogpiling on the base. Moving off would just leave a ton of resources out for exploitation and waste the temporary power. Considering that teams already have 4 actions to play extra minions to stockpile, I personally would have made the 2 temporary power into 2 power counters to make it as cast friendly as possible. But Brunch Bunch is only 1 card in a mechanical miss, and the truth is that I find the entire chain to just be wrong, and I'm not even sure the best way to explain it or try to relink it. A few things do stand out to me though. Slacker wants Rebel there in order to move minions, but Rebel's react moves a minion. Where are all these minions coming from when the teens really want you to be local because they're expecting the minion to already be there? The most flexible payoff is getting an extra action, but drawing a card is the best engine minion, leaving Brain without a clear purpose. However, the strongest payoff is searching with Prep, who wants Brain, but that means forfeiting an extra action. And it takes a minion out of the deck, a minion who could be played with New Kid, which is best played with Brain. If Brain can play New Kid to play another Brain and get a second action, I really wish Rebel could play another Rebel. It can only happen once, and it would give them so much more flexibility. The only part of the chain that makes sense to me is Prep and Jock. Jock becomes a 7, which is a good finisher. But Jock being the requirement for Prep does not make sense because it means that your investment is likely already high, which comes with risk. And you can just see how there really isn't a good starting point without Abe Froman, which does nothing for you unless it does everything for teens. While I liked Grimm's Blessing, being a base modifier had a lot more flexibility. And is this the design space we really want to revisit? I've had months to think this over, and I feel like I am leaving a lot on the table in this review, but I do feel like this is a situation where less is more in terms of grievances, and just let players see for themselves. But for this video, the biggest takeaway is the mixed messaging and the ultimate Blossom paradox, that the on-plays are local, which implies dogpiling, but the reactions are global, which implies spreading. But the more you spread, the more on-plays you forfeit, and the game plan never feels cohesive. If you scrapped all the top halves and build the faction around the bottom halves, that's actually a solid start, and you would remove the Blossom paradoxes, which are more extreme than I felt in any other faction. Teens just never feel as smooth as they should, and I get audibly frustrated when I'm trying to make their plays work unless I am super intentional about their partner. Because of their internal dependencies, teens are in the unfortunate position where their average case pairings are bad and brutally unfun. They require specific partners to work, and when they get those partners, they can feel explosive while still having wasteful turns throughout the game. I really just don't enjoy this faction. It got worse with more plays rather than better. So for recommended pairings, I'm only going to mention 2, especially in the interest of time. The first is a faction that I recently said can make anything work, and that's Anansi. Teens has both the strong standard actions you want to sling, and the useless cards you want to give away. Anansi has above average card draw and great recursion for the teens' actions that you will heavily rely upon. Since you are hoarding Hornets anyway, you aren't as concerned with acquiring Power 3 plays, and the one you do have is readily playable for maximizing your benefits. The other combo is extremely obvious, and that's the Grannies with their Titan. You have 10 minions of power 3, and one of them bottom decks cards, which is tailor-made for the Great Grandma. The recursion and instant access of the Grannies greatly reduces the sting of mixing out the top ability because you will get it eventually. Add in card draw and deck sifting to the mix, and teams become a lot more consistent. This combo was unique in that it's rare that Grannies are the one fixing another faction, yet here we are in 2023. If I had to pick a combo with EMD, it would be Wraith Rustlers, but I'll let you discover why for yourself. From a pure review standpoint, especially if this faction is a promo, right now this is a pass for me. It would take extreme completionism for me to buy this because I don't enjoy playing it. But now it's time to talk about something that is very important but inevitably controversial. Is this the 100th faction, and does it matter? From the groups I've talked to, across a variety of media all over the world, most agree that the 100th faction should be special, but not everyone did, more than I thought, but still far outweighed by the others. By virtue of me asking the question, I do think that it matters. I've even said that the 100th faction would be a bigger deal to me than 10 years, because you can get to 10 years with half of the content. Most of the naysayers point out that 100 is just a number, but I don't buy that argument for a few reasons. First, milestones exist in everything. Student numbers have significance, even if it's just emotional significance. Clearly, 10 years mattered enough to be considered a milestone. And this is a phenomenon beyond just the gaming industry. Name a TV show of repute that didn't do something special for its 100th episode. In sports, think about statistical milestones. 100 RBIs a year, or getting your 100th home run. These are big deals. And it isn't always 100, sometimes it's 3,000 hits, or 5,000 strikeouts, or whatever a sport other than baseball deems appropriate for its milestone. Besides, AEG made a special point when they reached 50 factions, which is Grannies, and that is supposed to be symbolic because of the Golden Jubilee, which, by the way, is a milestone itself. Clearly, milestones exist, and they are special, and they matter, and especially after the disappointment of the 10th anniversary, I feel like the 100th faction should have been given proper respect, and it wasn't. Theme-wise, it's not what I was personally looking for, but that could just be me, and that's by far the least important part. But consider this. Smash Up, a game of two factions, a game that celebrates smashing two things together, celebrates such a crucial moment in its history with something extremely insular. If I were making a 100 something, I would go out of my way to ensure that it is special. It doesn't have to be the best thing I've ever done because that's a tough bar, but the effort should at least be unquestionable, and I'm just not seeing it here to the extent that it should. Think about this. Where is the promotion for teens? We've seen one faction card, and it's the worst possible spoiler for their cards, literally stock protection. You know what would have been awesome? Put out Brunch Bunch with the abilities blocked off and have people guess what they were. I see three possibilities. Either it's not the 100th faction because certain other factions don't count, or it is and it's just not a big deal, or it is a big deal. If it's one of the first two cases, just say so and set expectations accordingly. And if it is the third option, act accordingly. I hesitate to bring this up because teens could somehow still be a stealth release in EMD, but making the 100th faction a difficult to obtain promo is also the wrong move. I get that I said that I am unlikely to purchase it, but don't take the decision out of people's hands through inaccessibility. Once again, it feels like they stumbled into a milestone accidentally without really planning it out, and it's the players who lose as a result. One positive feedback that I have heard from other players is that the person who really knocked it out of the park is Francisco Rico Torres. Based on the source material, I've heard people declare the art as his love letter to teens movies, which is how a milestone should feel, like a love letter. Teens mechanics don't feel like a love letter to Smash Up. It feels like Smash Up doesn't understand its own game, and that's incredibly disappointing. If it is a love letter, tell me how, as I would be happy to be wrong here, but I honestly expected more for the 100th faction. Simply put, it just feels unfinished. I want to call back to what I said in the beginning of the video. I think good things are coming with half the battle. I've been in the unfortunate position of having to review a lot of things this year I haven't liked. So don't worry that Smash Up has lost its touch, because it hasn't. I just personally wanted to be really excited about the 100th faction, and I'm not. And I'll speak more about what I think a 100th faction should be in a future video. So what do you think of the teens concept? Are you excited to play them? Where would you expect to start the chain with their minions? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Let's shut it down.